Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us.
Good morning. I'm on TV.
Good morning.
Oh.
Good morning.
Good morning from Arkansas.
Good morning. Thank you. You scared me. Thank you, everyone, for joining us, those of you online as well as those in person. This is the second day of this celebration of the Farmer to Farmer program, the volunteers, the host, as well as all the staff. So thank you all for joining us for day two. We're excited to have to showcase some volunteers today, as well as some representatives from host organizations. So we'll be having two panels where we'll get to the chance to hear from each of those groups and ask them questions, hear about their experiences. So we're really excited and hope it's a very engaging day for everyone. Just a few things before we get started. Everyone here in person, there's these little cards here that have the Wi-Fi password, so feel free to use that. Bathrooms are going to be through those doors to the right. Feel free to grab coffee, snacks. We're bringing more snacks too, so feel free to get up and grab as you please. We will start off with a host panel, and I'll pass it on to Kelly in a second to introduce that. Before that, though, any of the volunteers of the year, can you just raise your hands? Yes. Okay. Before we get started, can you all sort of step outside quickly? Though there's going to be a video recording, I believe you all will be part of. So they just want to brief you on that really quickly, then you'll pop back in. So if you all can just step outside for that and join this man over here. And yeah, that's it. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask Kelly or me. And I really hope you all find this a very engaging session. We will have a short break in between the two panels. So you'll be able to grab more food, go to the bathroom, do anything like that. Folks online as well. And then we will, for those in person, here in person, we'll be having a short reception up in the 9th floor. At the end of the two panels, we'll have some small snacks as well, and an opportunity for you to continue the conversations there in person. So thank you. With that, I'll pass it on to Kelly.
Thanks, Stephanie. My name is Kelly McNally, and I work at Partners of the Americas. Welcome, everyone, to our second day. I've worked at Partners of the Americas for 4.5 years now as a senior program officer. And it is my pleasure to introduce the host panel for today. So we will have Antonio Aljofre, correct? The country director in Mozambique with CNFA moderating this panel. And so I'll ask him and the rest of the panelists to come up. And then for all of the panelists, there's mics on the table there. You don't need to push the button to speak, it's already on.
Sit really close.
We're here. Yeah, you can sit up here. And then we also have Maya, who's joining us as well. She's not listed on the screen, but is Maya? Okay, sorry we couldn't get your photo in time.
Oh, would you like to come here? Yeah, that would be fine. Then we can have the female in the mix. Yes.
Good morning, everyone. It's a great pleasure to be in this session. Actually, this is my first experience to moderate a conversation. It's such extraordinary conversation. Having our hosts in DC is something that means a lot for me as a country director. So having them talking about the experience is wonderful. So we have with us in our panel Musa Kitoyo from Tanzania. We have Ficado. Sorry, Ficado.
Yeah.
Your surname is
Yeah, Pagado Alamaya.
yeah, from Ethiopia. We have Bob from Madagascar. We have Isufu from Ghana, and we have Maya from Republic of Georgia, right?
Yes.
I mean, yesterday we've been listening to stories, and probably in the groups where we heard about some volunteer stories, but I know that we have missed other stories. So today is the day that we will integrate, and we are going to have this conversation. So the first stage will take 45 minutes. So we have 3 teams. We have the pre-assignment, during assignment, and post-assignments. In each teams, we have a set of questions that I will be asking our panelists. And then we will, after the 45 minutes, we will have the Q&A section where everyone can ask questions, including those who are participating virtually. So I will start by inviting Musa just to tell us where you come from. I mean, where you come from, I've said, but sorry, I have to check my questions here. Yeah, just tell us briefly which type of assignments and how many assignments have you received so far?
Thank you. Hi, everyone. Thank you for having us. The name is Musa. Here. So,
yeah.
Am I audible now? Not yet. Okay, a little bit more. Thank you. I'll move right close to the mic. So I come from Tanzania, and I work for a bank called Amana Bank. It's a local bank, a small bank. It's registered as a commercial bank. So like all commercial banks, really what's the motive is actually to make money for the shareholders. So we got involved with IES about 3 years ago now. And really, the reason we reached out to them is that we had signed in 2019 a guarantee scheme with the USAID. And that in itself was actually supporting the bank to actually reach its services to the needy, mainly those that are in upcountry regions, in the villages who are doing, it's either agriculture, women-led businesses, or the youth. And then since 2019 until last year, there hasn't much wasn't done by the bank. And therefore we found it of our interest to actually reach out to get expertise, from yourselves. So that is really the reason we went out and reached out. So it was for us an eye opener, because after the engagements, we saw significant utilization of the guarantee, but we've also gained knowledge on how to actually participate in the agri space. Thank you.
Thank you, Musa. Bob, you'd like to briefly tell us?
Okay. Hi, everybody. So my name is Bob. I come from Madagascar, and I'm working in a soybean project. The company name is Agrivol, and in Madagascar we import 100% of the edible oil that all the Malagasy population eat. And in Madagascar also, 100% of the soybean meal for animal feed are imported. So there is a big business opportunity that Agrivol decide to take. But the problem is the soybean sector is totally collapsed in Madagascar. You can find any good seeds, good varieties. You can find any supplier of inoculum. You can't find any technicians. There is nothing. But despite of the situation, Agrivol decided to invest in a soybean plant in order to extract oil, produce soybean cake. And that's why we are approached the CNFA and farmer to farmer to help us in about the technician staff and something like that. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob.
Should I press this button?
Yes.
My name is Isifu Suleiman. I'm a farmer. Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's all right.
Please forgive me.
No.
My name is Isifu Suleiman. I'm a farmer, and I belong to a small farmer group. It's a kind of a network we call PGS Ghana. And PGS Ghana is a local certification, organic certification body. And it is something that we facilitated ourselves because we could not belong to any of the external ones because they are expensive. You need huge sums of money to be able to bring external auditors to audit you to be qualified. So we put up the local one, which we call PGS Ghana. And PGS means participatory, it's a participatory system. So we are based in Walwale. We're a number of farmers. We produce fish. We're challenged with a major production challenge, and we're looking for a solution. A solution we sought for almost 1 year. We're not getting until one day we complained to PGS Ghana. If you want us to be more vibrant and continue to be in business, then you must help us find this answer. And then PGS Ghana took it upon, leadership took it upon themselves. And then one day I was there, they called me and said, look, we've got Winrock Ghana. And Winrock says they will search around the world and get somebody who can actually help you. Okay, so I continue to press on the PGS Ghana leadership. Please, we are losing. We are getting out of business. How fast can this be done? And then I think they also kept on putting pressure. And then one day I was there, they told me, oh, we found somebody. The person said he's capable of giving us the skills we are looking for. And that was how we became part of this farmer to farmer. Thank you.
Thank you. Maya, please.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. I am Maya Mikawa. I came from Republic of Georgia. I am living in West part. It's okay? Yeah. Okay, thank you. So I'm living in west part of Georgia, and I'm working in west part of Georgia. I'm head of a non-profit organization, Association of Agriculture Development. It is the Agriculture Extension Center. In 2013, when we got the grant assignment from USAID, and around of this project, we established Agriculture Extension Center. This is complex service center, which includes agronomy and veterinary direction. And around of this space, we have agricultural laboratory, chemical and microbiological analyzing of food, soil, water, and also, we have very modern veterinary clinic. It is based on the by stationary. As also, we have mobile veterinary clinic, which is equipped with very modern equipment. It is, I can say that it is now we have this result now. But when we started in 2013, it was just idea. And we had no information about how to establish the laboratory, what kind of equipment we need, or how must be designed the laboratory space, anything. So after collapse of Soviet time in Georgia, we had just Ministry of Agriculture, not more, no services for farmers. Just we had agronomists from Soviet time, which was they were very low qualified professionals. And when we started this project, really we had big problem, big challenge with skills and knowledge and human resources. And we found Farmers to Farmers project. And when we started 10 years ago with a round of this project to plan our development of organization, so we had no even our office ready, and from that time we with volunteers of Farmers, we get all kind of trainings. I mean, in management, in design of laboratory, engineering of laboratory, in veterinary clinic, how to use the equipment, for example, X-ray, ultrasound, and we get about 7 volunteers from Farmers to Farmers project. So we are now only one private agriculture extension service which have the laboratory, very modern laboratory, and which can fully service farmers and also the veterinarians. I made to mention that our region is very rich by agriculture production, and laboratory is a very important chain in this area, because we are exporting many kind of fruits, mainly hazelnut, citruses, kiwi, blueberries, and other berries. And really, we have a big challenge because a round of free trade agreement with EU countries. So we are playing very, very important role in our region, and I can say that but first, our big challenge was the knowledge and skills and professionals, as I said. So now we can say that we are with help of volunteers. We bring our laboratory by standards very well, and thanks to Mr. Alier, the 1 month ago we started with microbiological analyzing. It was fully started, and it is crazy because we in 10 days he did a really big job. And you know, in Georgia we have lack of the professionals in direction of microbiology. I can say that even government don't have any possibility, opportunity to retrain the professionals. Even universities, they don't have any academic education for microbiologists, and really it was a big help for us. And also in direction of veterinary, we have great professionals by help of our volunteers. It's all. Thank you very much. So
Thank you. Ricardo, please.
Good morning, everybody. This is Fakadu from Ethiopia. Thank you very much for your time. I might repeat what I said yesterday. I speak on behalf of Ethiopian universities and also universities in Africa. I'm a teacher by profession. I've only in higher education so far. And currently, I'm also doing a PhD at the University of Nebraska-Lincoln. And I'll take you back to the time when we first came to know about farmer to farmer. We at Hawassa University is one of the big universities in Ethiopia and the Center of Excellence for Human Nutrition Training, Research, and Community Services. We started a PhD program in collaboration with Oklahoma State, University of Saskatchewan in Canada, Otago University from New Zealand. 3 professors joined hands with a professor in Ethiopia and started the PhD program. But after we have the 3 cohorts in 2019, still our first cohort didn't graduate, and we had a critical shortage of manpower. And there was a professor who came from Wisconsin. Her name is Heidi. I really acknowledge her because all what did happen after that is because of Dr. Heidi. She did come to Hawassa. She did interview me. She did see our students and the like. By that time, she was working for USAID, but she was part of the Farmer to Farmer before. And she told me, you know, there's Farmer to Farmer program. They can bring you teaching persons from the United States. And I said, I didn't know about that. Please send me the link. And then she sent me the link, and even she recommended Dr. Alamu. He's on the right-hand side in this room. And looking at his profile, he was very big in data science research, a lot of biostatistics, nutrition and health. He was the best fit for the profile we're looking for. He did came to Hawassa and he did teach 4 courses, 1 seminar, 1 selective course, biostatistics, nutrition and health, like in 2 weeks' time. You don't imagine how difficult this is. Teaching a PhD student, even if it is only 1 student, it's a PhD class. Not something you just show slides and go, or it's not like undergraduate where you only measure knowledge. These are people that should publish in international journals, and they are going to be called Dr. Someone, where the world would have a big attention. You know, whenever someone is a doctor or a professor, we know what it means behind that. So Dr. Alamu was really like a very right person for that time. Then we knew about farmer to farmer. Now we kept asking, you know. Then we, you know, in Ethiopia is one of the very big countries, as you know, in Africa. There are a lot of demand. People that help our undergraduate students to get jobs, start businesses, not only PhD students, especially undergraduate work was also needed, especially to support students start their own businesses and work with international organizations. If you come to Hawassa, we have a very big industry park. Most of the companies working there are internationals. And our students need the language and the skills and the ethics and the mindset to work with those international organizations. And another volunteer from Wisconsin again, her name is Mary Kay. And she helped us in making like a business training for the young people. That was during the COVID pandemic. It's the time when I also became a volunteer, assisting her in the local, like virtual connection with the trainees and arranging the webcam and all these kind of things, which most of our undergraduate students don't know how to use. So this is my experience. And I really would like to acknowledge again and encourage this program to continue. I have been part of many development programs. I work with USAID, Gates Foundation, Save the Children, and the European Union, Dutch governments, and a lot. And the best success we have is when we meet people. You could have a lot of money, but if you don't know how to use it, especially for PhD training and the like, you know, what everything local might not be enough, because they should publish in international journals. To graduate, publishing in an international journal is very important. And you need someone who has that experience, that skill set. So yeah, I can answer questions, but I can really keep talking a lot about all the challenges we have and the opportunities of working together. And I'm really grateful and thank you for the attention. And
Thank
for
you,
the opportunity.
Fidak. I have a lot of questions for you. So
Sure, very happy.
Don't worry. And then we have the Q&A also.
Thank you.
With so many questions. I don't know if that was clear, but let me ask 2 panelists to briefly tell us how did you learn about Farmer to Farmer program? Isufu, can you tell us briefly, how did you learn?
Thank you. I think in my preliminary comments, I tried as much as I can to make it so clear that I wasn't actually aware until we were looking for a solution to our problem. And the problem is what I told you, that yes, we are a group of farmers producing a wide range of products, including fish, vegetables, crops, cereals, maize, soybeans, and then honey, and also livestock. And then the fish component was collapsing. Of course, we are farmers. Anytime at all you are challenged with a problem, you have to look for an answer. In seeking an answer, we belong to a group also known as PGS. And the PGS was the certification, the local certification body in Ghana. So we tried locally first at our level, trying to meet a number of people, including the Department of Agriculture in our local setup, Walawale. And of course, maybe if you have just come, then I have to let you know that I'm from Walawale, Northern Ghana. And that's exactly where we are located. So the Department of Agriculture have a decentralized bodies which are operating, trying to help farmers at the local level. We tried together, we didn't get an answer. So I told PGS, we cannot be able to supply the market if you don't help us find an answer. And the solution, and the problem was that we were not getting feed. The feed we are using to feed the livestock were imported ones. And they were too expensive. For whatever reason, I don't want to speculate, but the truth is that you buy today, the next day you go, the price have quadrupled. In some cases, it was also far away from where we were, because even if you get them, it can take you 1 week to continue making calls. That was taking our attention of what we're doing. Because if to get a feed alone and then I have to call somebody in Akosombo, and then the person says, okay, send the money. We send the money, then he says, okay, how do I get it to you? We'll send it to Accra. Can you get somebody in Accra to take it and put in another vehicle? Our system is not properly arranged, just as you can have a delivering system where you can sit comfortably in your home and then you have to go through hell to get it to your place. And in some cases, I think I can remember one time, my feed got missing because taking it through Accra was a problem. So the person who was sending it to me suggested that it has to pass through the Volta River, where from Akosombo, it comes to Bupe. And from Bupe, I have to send somebody to go to Bupe. It takes to Tamale. And then from Tamale, it is now taken to me in Walwale. It was getting hell. Some of my colleagues were saying that, look, we can no longer continue this. We better switch or we migrate. And I said, no. If we do that, who are those going to remain in Walwale? No, we must seek answers. We can find them. So I told PGS Ghana, if you want us to work together as a certification body, then you must help us find answers. So they took it upon themselves. And then few couple of weeks, they got back to me and said, they have contacted Winrock. And that was the first I heard of Winrock. Then I said, wow, what do they say? That, okay, it's a procedure. They are going to take their time and also search around the world and get somebody who can find an appropriate skill or solution to your problem. Okay, so we were on Winrock's PGS because I wasn't dealing with Winrock direct. So PGS eventually introduced Winrock and said they find an answer and we need to start talking. So this is how we came into contact, and this is how we got to hear about farmer to farmer. That is a short story, what I can tell you.
Thank you, thank you. I think this question is pretty much clear. So I'm going to ask Musa, how do you prepare to receive a farmer to farmer volunteer?
Thank you, and a very good question. So one, remember that when we reached out to farmer, we actually had an organizational challenge to be able to solve our own strategy execution. So when we actually had done the scoping with the support of farmer to farmer, we could identify exactly what we needed to solve first. So we went out and actually invited the stakeholders within Amana Bank to say we actually need to develop a policy, an agri policy, and we don't have the expertise to do so. So who is involved in developing the policy within Amana Bank? We got all of them to buy in and actually accept that we actually need support in this area of developing an ag policy. So by the time we actually had farmer to farmer come and support us develop an ag policy, we actually had everybody within the organization lined up. So initially it was something that began within the bank, acknowledging that we don't know and we need support to be able to solve this organizational goal. So it really started there.
Thank you. Bob, would you like to share also how do you prepare to host the farmer volunteer?
I think the key is preparation. Before the volunteer arrive for an intervention, you have to spend time to prepare. The volunteer have to understand clearly what you are waiting for from them, and the host also have to express in the clearest way what they need. So at the end, everybody is happy, and the hosts have also to check all the details, because, for example, in Madagascar, people doesn't speak English a lot. They understand French language. So if the volunteer come into Madagascar and there is no translator, the mission of the volunteer will be failed. But just one word, the key is preparation.
Thank you, Bob. Maya, in your perspective, what make a productive farmer-to-farmer assignment?
Yes, good question. Thank you for the question. It's a good question, really, because productivity of this project is the goal of every assignment, because result what we are waiting for each assignment must be done. Thanks to Magda and her team, they are very professional, and they have million questions about needs of our needs, and it is not only questions. She is arranging always online meeting with the volunteers, and she's arranging all kind of questions for me to the volunteers, and we are sharing needs and volunteer experience which have to meet each other. So it is a great opportunity to have a great result. And each assignment through this job, each assignment was really for me very with good result. And I think every volunteer have to, how to say, create farmers to farmers program manager and every team member must oriented to have right goals and right objective for assignment. This is very, very important. And Thanks for that.
Thank you. Ricardo, as you know, even a very productive assignment presents some challenge. So would you like to tell us how you deal with challenge, for example, communication barrier or agenda disruption? I'm just giving some examples.
Yeah, thank you. Like, I have a lot of positive experiences. To be honest, we didn't face as such a major challenge to present. Rather, some of the challenges we face was like in implementing the recommendations from the volunteer side after the program ends. In higher education, for example, some of the recommendations might be how to improve the curriculum or how to improve the teaching methods or providing facilities for the PhD students, or let's say having a wireless access at a place where there is youth training facility. You know, because a volunteer, especially when you volunteer from abroad, you need a very good wireless access point. And then the end users also should be skillful in using the communication channel. Those are not easy recommendations. It needs really well preparation from the host side. Maybe the institutions are not ready. But especially for the PhD, we did use a lot of the inputs because we were there. Like most of the Dr. Alam also knows well about the PhD training. So the feedback he gave us is really very practical, like having, let's say, a journal club for every month and seminars and updates of the status of the PhD students. Those of you in academia, you know, some students, even if the program is 4 years, they stay until 10 years or the like, maybe they get job in the in between, and, you know, like things can go very slow. So we really acknowledge those kinds of inputs, and we tried and we benefited a lot. So it's not as such really a major challenge. Rather, the challenge is for undergraduate and community recommendations. Because there, as I said, the first thing is about readiness of the undergrad students, let's say, to engage with the volunteer, because English is a medium of communication. Undergrad students are not at that level of high proficiency English communication. So we need someone to be a translator. And also, in the meantime, very good in techniques, especially because we did a virtual training for the business. And starting business by itself is also a process. Like someone might tell you how to do your business, you know, do this and do that and the like. But at the end of the day, you should execute as a business owner. And these are undergrad students. They have very good ideas, but they need a banking system in place, for example, for a credit facility, or they need continuous mentorship and training and all this. So we know we didn't expect as such really. We just needed an eye-opening, especially our students to experience a fluent English-speaking person, because that's the person they might face when they do work in the industry parks. Like there are a lot of industries working in Ethiopia nowadays, and they have a lot of internationals. Language is one major barrier. So we wanted our students just to experience what it means to be trained by someone from United States. Like, how do they speak? And can you catch a little words even if you have English training, you know? So I think, yeah, it's very good. We don't have to expect a lot. I give this comment for other sides. Like you might recommend things which sound easy. Practically, they are not easy for the people on the ground. So just maybe having a follow-up missions. That's one of the comments we give to all the partners. Also use the same person, maybe go to an institution again and again, so that they have a story there, so, because they know where they start from. And it's really easier to follow up. And yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Fidako. Yusuf, I'm always back to you. If I had to ask you to, I mean, if you had to give one recommendation, one key recommendation to a first time host organization, what that would be?
So
Open it.
Oh, it's off. Okay, thank you. For the first time host, my first recommendation is let me share some little experience with you as a first-time host first, then I can make a recommendation. When I first got to know that the person who was coming was a Cameroonian, I was very comfortable. I said, oh, this is my brother behind the other side, so that's okay. Then eventually it became that, oh no, he's coming from United States. How can I handle somebody from United States of America? I was thinking they are so special human being. I mean, hey, when you hear American, hey, no, can I handle this man? Okay. Then eventually he arrives. And I said, very simple. And I'm seeing simple people and all those things. So the anticipated this thing was that United States of America need a very big house and all those things in place to house him. Otherwise, he will not be comfortable. He won't stay. And I was going ahead to go and look for something that does not exist even in Walawale, just because I'm getting somebody. And then eventually he came and I realized that myself and he can even be in the farm. Oh, so my first recommendation is the first time host, if you are going to host somebody, don't be so stressed. Don't be so over, I don't know how I'm going to put it. I mean, you shouldn't be, don't put so much on it. I mean, think of the person being so simple and think of simple things that you do that you think the person also doing it will be comfortable. And that is what my first recommendation would be. Otherwise, if you are thinking the person is coming from the United States, you might be tempted to even cancel it because you think you might not be able to host him. And then you'll be cutting away so much away. When the person is actually very simple, he can live with you, he can even stay with you in the same farm. So you don't go extra miles spending unnecessary money when the person in actual fact may not even need it. Professor Sama was a typical example. I realized that I could have even asked Winrock, it took me almost 1 week to be looking for an appropriate accommodation for Professor Sama. And then they eventually arrived and I realized that no, he said, oh, we could have been in this farm. So that is my first time recommendation. First time person, please don't be so stressed up. Don't go throwing your money away. Don't waste energy and time looking for something special, a special accommodation and a special distance. I mean, they eat the same food as you eat. They live the same place as you live. They are the same people. They live probably more simpler than you might be living in Walwale. And that is what, otherwise you cut away. You may be tempted to cancel it. Yes.
Thank you, Isufu. I'm going to ask not the same question, but in the perspective of the first-time volunteer, Musa, what do you think would be the first key recommendation for a first-time volunteer?
To the volunteer?
Yes.
Well, firstly, I must admit that I misled everyone in the first question as to the number of assignments. I think end of the day, we all didn't answer that question. We've had two big assignments over the period with Farmer to Farmer. I must say the volunteers were great. And I'm really happy to have met Alain Lam here, who was part of one of those assignments in creating an ag policy. So what I will sort of give us to anyone who is wanted to volunteer to any of these organizations is, while you have the expertise, come with a fresh mind to try and solve the problem that you find where you're going. Because most of the times is you just want to copy and paste what you know from somewhere else into an organization. But there are cultures, there are processes, there are policies which some need to be adopted before you can actually apply your expertise. But others need to be completely taken outside and dealt with before they can actually be reapplied into the organization. So that's really what I would say. Thank you.
Thank you. Bob, I know that you have been working quite intensively with farmer-to-farmer coordinator. But in your perspective, what is the role of the farmer-to-farmer coordinator in your assignment? We'd like to know from host perspective.
It's the key people because, for example, in our case, we don't have a direct communication to the volunteer. We are in direct communication with the technical coordinator. So it's a key people because if the way of expression of our needs is not understood by this coordinator or technical people, we will never get the right volunteer. So as I said, we have to spend time to communicate with this technical coordinator. We have to give to him the maximum of informations in order to allow him to understand in a very clear way what we expect to get.
Thank you, Bob. Maya, I have one question for you, and that is regarding recommendations, volunteer recommendations. So I would like to know what makes a good volunteer recommendation.
So,
Is it clear?
I think so.
Okay.
So I will try to express my vision by my not so perfect English. Sorry. Yes. Good recommendation makes for volunteer. Yes, my recommendation is for. I think volunteer and this we have three sides of assignment: volunteer, F2F coordinator, and host organization. And volunteers, if they will work on assignment together very closely and to figure out good objectives and goals of assignment. As I said, this assignment will be with good result. And I will recommend to volunteers to work closely with host organization and the coordinator before the assignment. It makes sense because volunteer must have information about society, about specific of organization and job. And I think the first priority thing is really society and cultural relationships, which volunteer will meet in country and in organization, and it is very important. So I think I understand your question. Yes or not so?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Ricardo, can you provide us an example of ways that you have implemented volunteer recommendations?
Yeah, I can speak about especially the PhD students related recommendations given by Dr. Alamu, like the journal club, which is a monthly or like by semester update of especially students who reach towards the end of their coursework. Also recommendations about a PhD seminar. We did implement these things. And also like having a clear kind of set of course instructors, because in the beginning when we start the PhD, there is a lot of promise. And then with different challenges, like we face different challenges in Ethiopia, Sometimes there are travel restrictions for volunteers or for internationals to come, and the conflict issues and all these things. And there were some challenging recommendations which needs system improvement. Like, so for this, what I really advise also, the very good recommendation is the one which the host could choose. Or actually, that's what would happen. You as an external person would give like what you think is right, but people know their capacities, their situations and the like. And then there should also be a sense of kind of agreed things that they should improve, you know? So for the undergraduate students, business, because we know that's a challenging mission from the beginning, helping just a fresh graduate to start their own business. It's not like the PhD students. PhD students are by themselves seniors. Their experience, they come from work environment and the like. The comment given there was easy to implement, but for the undergrads was challenging. We know because we start from a very kind of very far, like we wanted to make a virtual training when we don't have a virtual training center, or at least like the webcam system or wireless internet access point, which was a major gap from the community side, because the second mission was conducted not in the university setting, rather we went out to the community where the graduates were living. That was in a place called Maki in Oromia, and close to Zwai. So the people who know, so this is a small town, but we know in those kind of places, there are a lot of unemployment, very few opportunities compared to urban areas. So we did recommend to the local host organization, because our university was not like situated in Maki. So yeah, as I said, really the recommendation we make is only 2 weeks engagement, and the hosts just need to prioritize and then maybe reach a consensus and then say, these are what we are able to do. These are beyond our capacity. Then it makes it easier for a follow-up missions. People from CRS have been really very supportive. They followed up and they have been calling and asking, sending emails about what did happen and what is your status. I think that's very important. And so, yeah. So the PhD, as I say, higher education, especially graduate program recommendations can be implemented. Undergrad and community setting recommendations need more attention because of the capacity of the.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
I have two very last questions. They are open. First of all, I would like to know, as you know, some recommendations requires additional resources to be implemented. I would like to know which of you had such situations that you had to source for resource to implement recommendations.
Okay, I think I can start with that one.
Okay, so you said yes.
Yes.
So my question is, can you tell us the ways that you approach those resources?
To start with, I think this is a panel discussion, and I feel that what we say here and what we put across here could be very useful in going further. And therefore, I just remembered one or two things with regards to the previous question you asked me, and I feel that I should let you know that yes, if I am picked as somebody who should advise the first time host, the other things I would like the person to know, and that is so important, apart from not putting yourself under stress by receiving the person in a simple way. The other one is you have to seek a long-term partnership with the person. Winrock is bringing you somebody in a short term, but it doesn't end there. Now you need to find a way of building a relationship, and that relationship is very important in the long run. So that is one of the best way that I would advise anybody or recommend to anybody who is receiving a volunteer. And now this is how you can do it as a recommendation. You need to open up, because you are the one who are in the trouble. You are the one who is seeking an answer. You are the one who is seeking a solution. If you don't open up with him and be truthful and transparent with him, he wouldn't equally open up to tell you what he has. That's number one. And then number two, you need to treat him as a brother, uncle, a father, or whatever you call it. then he's not an expert coming from somewhere, but he's treated as a family member. And we in Africa, or in my place, we believe in what? Family cohesion. We open up so much, we tell each other the truth, we share, we believe in all those things. So when you are beginning to deal with the host, you are beginning to deal with the volunteer in this manner, he begins to say that, oh, I think this person is not even that way. He will open up and tell you so much. He'll pick up, he'll look at your environment, things that were not even part of the assignment. He'll be willing to bring it out, and then he will share with you. And that is how you can build the long-term relationship with that person. So we need to get this clear. And then first-time hosts need to have that in order to be able to build a better relationship with that person. That is by the way. Now, your second question, please repeat it very well again, and then I'll give you a specific answer.
Yeah,
the issue about whether or not you need additional resources, exactly, and how did we go about it? Yes, it is something that needs to be discussed. Thank you. It's something that needs to be discussed. In our case, we're given no less than 10 recommendations, and each was so important, and they needed some additional resources to do that. Now, this is how we went about it, because Winrock has given us the person who has given us the ideas and the skill. It is binding on us because it was so important to us that we need to find different ways of solving it. And of course, there are so many angles you can solve your problem. We look at those that we needed simple local materials to be able to solve them, not necessarily money. For instance, I'll give you an example. He proposed that where we are, we needed biosafety measures. The biosafety measures could be done in two ways. One has to be with whether you get disinfectants, chemicals, and those things. Another way is that we asked him, we don't have the money to buy now. He said, oh, you can use ash. You can extract potash from ash. And that is the beginning. And then there are some, too, you needed some money. I personally I walked to the local bank we call Bank Margo Community Bank. It's a bank at our local level, and it supports agricultural production. I walked to the manager and said, look, I've got an idea, I've got a lot of these things, I can do a lot of things, please. I need 10,000 Ghana cedis immediately to expand my fish farming business. By the next day, he said, meet the board members, and I met all of them one by I paid the loan back with the interest. So it means I have the chance to go in for additional loans to expand my business. I think there are so many ways. You can start from those that you don't actually require so much money, but can change so much on the ground and graduate slowly to places where you can get assistance. And then we can even move to a step further to look at people who are willing to provide grants and then speak to them and see how they can help you. This is how I went about getting extra resources to solve my recommendations. Thank you.
Thank you. I have a last question. I know that Sufu has been very close to his volunteer. I know that Faduku is always with his volunteer. I thought that you were, relatives by the way that you are so close. But the question is related with how do you maintain post-assignment communication? I will ask Bob, can you tell us if you keep communication with your volunteer?
Yes, absolutely. The last volunteer who helped us in soybean processing 1 month ago helped us to design the new machinery that we ordered 2 weeks ago. So we had kept a very good relationship. You know, between the volunteer and the host is not just a matter of technical transfer, but in 1 week, you can build something emotional. You become, there is something, it becomes your friend. So it's not just a matter of technology transfer, something like that, but more than that. And the last thing, when the volunteer knows that he had bring something positive to your organization, he or she still want to follow up these things because he or she is proud of this positive impact that he gives to you. So it's not just he come and go after 1 week, but he or she want to know what's happened. It's still okay. Do you understand?
Yes, I do. Thank you so much. We have completed the first stage of questions. Now we are going to open to Q&A and Kelly will take the lead. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Antonio. So we are going to do a Q&A right now. So everyone online and in the room is welcome to ask questions. In the room, we'll go around with mics. We have a couple of questions online already. And so I'll go through a couple of these and then we can open it up to the room for anyone. So first question is to Bob. And you had mentioned previously that at first you weren't communicating directly with the volunteer. It was the technical coordinator on the team that was speaking with the volunteer. And so Monsanita online here is asking, what was the reason for that? Why wasn't there the direct connection? And was there a barrier to have that direct connection between you and the volunteer?
I don't know. I was thinking that it's the process. So I was thinking that the process is that we express our needs to these key people, the F2, the coordinator, and it's up to him to tell to another team what the hosts need. I was thinking that it's the process. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it can depend on every implementer, right? Sometimes it starts out with a connection first with the implementing partner, and then sometimes they make a direct connection with the host and the volunteers prior to assignment. So I think it can just depend on the implementing partner's process. Thank you, Bob.
But
yeah.
After the CNFA found the volunteer, the communication between us and the volunteer begin before he comes into Madagascar. Yeah.
Okay, so there is that connection prior to the assignment. Thank you. And then we have another question here for Isifu. This is from Baraka Sambara from Mali. And he'd like to know what type of certification or standard, whether that's a local certification standard, regional or international, that the Ghana fish farmers were looking for, and if the production satisfied the local and regional markets.
I think it's just a local one. I did in the beginning of my preliminary presentation that we were looking at regional or national or international, but that would be too expensive to do that. I think how much an international certification body will be charging. If you give that money alone to me in Walawale, I'll change a lot of things in Walawale. And I don't know, even though it's business, I agree. But I think at least in my level, the local certification one is far better. So PGS is a participatory guarantee system. That's the full meaning. I become your watch, you become the next person's watch, and he become the next person's watch. And then we must go by a certain standard that we have set for ourselves. We develop it ourselves, we discussed it ourselves, and then we became auditors of ourselves, and we have to audit ourselves. So if we allow one person to spoil the market, we are all doomed. And therefore, I have to make sure that I audit you and make sure that you meet all the standards before we can recommend you to get the PGS certification certificate to operate under PGS. And then we review it periodically. So that is how it is. I'm told that Burkina Faso, Mali, Niger, Togo, and other countries are also developing their own PGS, or they're operating their own PGS in their country. And that means that maybe in future, if we are too fast, we can have a coordinated PGS regional level where PGS Ghana products will be accepted in Burkina Faso, and Burkina Faso one will be accepted in Ghana. But at the moment, it is PGS Organic Ghana, period.
Thank you. And then we have a couple more questions here in the chat, but I think we'll switch back and forth between the virtual questions and any questions here with people in the room. Do we have any questions for anyone here?
I'm interested to know from any of the hosts if there was something about your first time experience with a volunteer that was very unexpected or surprising to you, despite all the preparation. And Antonio, you can recruit the answers.
Okay, maybe.
I would like to, mention like of course for me, because I studied abroad, my master's was in Denmark. I know what it means to be a student-centered teaching, where the distance between a professor and the students are really very close. So Dr. Alamu did surprise a lot of our PhD students because the way he was teaching is so much student-centered, which means he took his students as his friends. Given his age and his level of qualification and the like, well, in Ethiopia, we have a kind of structured, more a power distance system where we don't just eat on the same table with the professor like. So, and a lot of students said, wow, I wish our professors are like this. It's like, that also speaks to the culture, also maybe the quality of the person. And they said he did teach us. Even the way he greets them is very different. Maybe he's so unique in I don't know. I think that was really very special because we didn't expect. The real aptitude education did happen because of that exposure out of class, especially during lunchtime or in the evening and the like. Just meeting every time and hugging them, doesn't happen with a lot of professors. We keep your distance, right? And then there should be a professor in the room. But Dr. Alam was so special. So please, I want to thank him for that.
I will make some small comment about this question. Thanks to Gotha and Magda, we don't have any bad experience. I may say that we were excited with all our volunteers, and they are my mentors for my life. So, and one of the best experience was with Mr. Alier when he in 10 days arranged my microbiological laboratory by theoretical things. So he learned my specialists, and also he did the practical learning of them, and it was really big work, unbelievable work. So result, thanks.
Okay, maybe I may add something small to that. One of this thing that surprised me so much was the fact that our volunteer I want to use the word ours because it wasn't me alone. I was just the host. Had made her to understand the value of the materials around us, including those that we never expected, including our food. I was shocked that somebody from far away in United States of America will come to like the food that we thought that no, we probably have to look for those from outside. So we have so much, and they are so valued that we never knew. So when he got there and then start changing, making use of the locally available materials, then I said, wow. So we have so much here that we never valued. We have to start thinking. We probably wouldn't need anything from anywhere again if we had this mindset. So that was one of the most surprising things. And the second surprising thing that he showed up was that we were thinking that he's just an expert in trying to help us build a fish feed. And then within the shortest possible time, so many things are emerging. Wonderful ideas using local materials to come out with wonderful things. Then we said, hey, so he has so much for us to learn from, apart from even the main assignment. So these are the few wonderful things that came up. Yes. There's something we call kulukule in Walawale. We don't value it so much, but he made us realize that there's so much value in that. And every day he's crying for it. Thank you.
Thank you. I think I saw a hand back here. Okay, Maxine, let me give you the microphone. Oh, he does. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Right, there's someone on this side, not me.
No,
Sorry?
There is
Did
a hand on
someone
the
want-
other side.
There's a hand.
Oh, okay. Yeah, go ahead.
My question is to Musa. As a banker, what influence does the farmer to farmer program have in you offering loans to, to farmers? Would you offer loans? Would a farmer who has received a volunteer receive a loan faster than a farmer who hasn't received a farmer to farmer volunteer?
Thank you. To answer the question, I want to bring in a bit of perspective so you know the environment we work in. So Tanzanian population about 60 million. About 70% of that population is believed to rely on agriculture for its livelihood. So quite a significant portion. And then out of the total population, again, about 50% of those are youth. However, in terms of financial institutions, banks, there's only one bank. It's called Tanzania Agricultural Development Bank. It's a government bank and also quite small. And since it was established, hasn't really reached the majority of the farmers in Tanzania so that it can dispense its services. So when we got involved with farmer to farmer, these facts started to come in the fore to say that as a bank and with this kind of population demographic, why isn't the bank actually looking at that opportunity? So we began to go through the motions to understand what it means going to lend to this particular group of potential customers. So when the first time Alan Lam said to us, you need to consider taking a cow as a collateral, you can imagine what was showing in all our faces. I mean, how do you take a cow as collateral? But I must say there were a number of things that helps us overcome these challenges. One is, of course, we have a USAID guarantee that really cushioned us and helped us start to take the first step towards accepting this kind of risks. And then, of course, part of the advice that came through was that we need to actually have a policy on agric. So initially what we're using is the traditional commercial bank policy that we use to lend to all kinds of other customers, and actually put that aside and develop an ag policy that actually addresses the specific needs of agricultural lending in Tanzania. So we have not yet implemented an ag policy, but it's actually way up in the decision ladder so that we can actually have an ag policy. The good thing is that as a nation, Tanzania has also recognized that agriculture shouldn't just be treated as a subsistence activity, but it can also be a business. And this is a huge realization. And we saw in the recent budget sessions that happened in Tanzania that the government is actually looking at it to sort of support banks and other financiers and other players in the markets to start to look at agriculture as a business, as an income generating activity, rather than just a subsistence activity. So I must say we are still way, way back in terms of reaching out to many potential farmers, but the opportunity is immense, and we want to play in that space. The guarantee from USAID came in very handy. But even without that guarantee, what I can assure you is that as a bank, we are now looking at actually putting the first 5 years agri strategy after actually getting the policy signed off by the board anytime this year. So well into play for the coming years. Thank you.
Go ahead, Maxine.
Good morning. My question was actually for Isifu, but I think Bob kind of touched on what I was leading up to, because especially in Jamaica, agriculture is considered high risk. And so the banks always have these high interest rates. And so farmers are not too willing to run to the bank. So when I heard about Isifu running to the bank and actually getting through with a loan, I wanted to find out from you if it is that the banks were always there willing to lend to farmers and you weren't approaching them because you were not knowledgeable of what it is that you would need to do to improve your operations, but because of the consultant, it gave you that information. And if it is that, that also was almost like a, not collateral, but an assurance to the bank to say, listen, we had expert, my proposal in terms of getting this loan is coming from experts in the field who assured me once I implemented these things, I would be successful. So if that actually helped your case with the bank, and if you really got good interest rates, or you're given high interest rates, but you took the risk anyway.
That's true. Let me start from the fact that, you see, I need to put this in the right context. We might have a different experience. Of course, the rural bank, in actual fact, if you are very used to Ghana, we have the traditional banks, which are the bigger ones, the Ghana Commercial Bank, how do we call? Yes, EcoBank and all those banks. They are, of course, they are there for business, but they are there for businesses that will be able to pay back their money. In Ghana, there was several attempts to establish banks that could help the smallholder farmer or the farmer. And one of them was ADB, Agricultural Development Bank. Of course, because of one reason or the other, it doesn't also give so much to farmers again. So the community bank concept came up. So it was a concept that was actually came up to help the smallholder farmer at the local level. So it's a bank that is owned by the community and is managed at the community level. In many cases, it is now that they are trying to network them. So Bamargo is a Mampurisi word, means know how to take care of the little you have. So it is meant to promote all kinds of businesses, including agriculture. It is not that they are not willing to give, but of course, you are dealing with money. They are interested in whether you can pay back. So in my case, walking in to demonstrate clear that we've gotten a new idea and it's so promising that we believe that if you give us the money, we should be able to pay it back at the stipulated time, was what convinced them as you are talking about. But of course, we do not also end there. Sometimes we do also tell them that despite the risks, we are highly food insecure. There's no way the smallholder farmer can make it without some little injection of what? Capital flow. You need to take that risk. That was actually also the problem of the manager. The manager explained to me that they've tried several times, but Smallholder farmers are unable to pay the money they collect. But we trust you. And I said, trust me. And that was how we got it. So I think it's going to be a balance between the risks and also the reality on the ground that, look, if we don't do something because of risks, we'll die out of anger. And we must balance the two. And that's what I think is the way forward. Yes. To add to the financing, I don't know, maybe one day any of us will be on a distance. What I realize is that farming, in actual fact, may not be able to borrow the same rate as the other commercial businesses. And for that matter, I told the manager, if there's a way we can have a separate lending rate for we farmers, other than the normal rate for somebody who is selling cement, somebody who is an industrialist, somebody who is selling an item that is moving quick for him to pay back his loan. That would be great for us. But if you tell all of us to borrow at the same rate, the farmer might not be able to make it. And he said, this is a policy rate from Bank of Ghana, and they have very little to do with it. So I don't know, these are bigger things than us as farmers. Maybe one day, somebody else should be able to do some of these negotiations on our behalf. Thank you. Yes.
And in that, the main goal of the program is to alleviate the livelihood of farmers. So can you clarify, either any of you or any local representative, to explain, to clarify how you plan to disseminate the volunteer contribution to help the local farmer? Because I believe when the volunteer arrives to the country, he or she does not have time to meet all the farmers. They meet few of them, and I would like to know exactly what are your measures in place to expand this knowledge to more than what the volunteers met during the 1 or 2 weeks, 10 years in the countries. Does it make sense?
Yes.
I'm thinking something like brochures or whatever thing you mentioned about the publication in international journals. I don't believe that farmers will be reading those journals. Yeah. And how will you manage to get to them to bring that knowledge to those people in need? Thank you.
Can I handle that? Okay, so in our contest in Walawali, the last word my volunteer told me and others, this knowledge I'm giving to you is for your own consumption, but don't let it remain here. It's for you and others. So one of his recommendations was that I want you to have a periodic video screening of all the things that I've done with you, including other tips that I'm adding to you, so that the larger community can benefit. So we have a monthly video screening. And each video screening, we have close to 41 to 49 to 50 farmers at a time in the hall to watch a particular skill that has been given to us. And then the same farmers are given the chance to go to the farm and do practice. And usually we also tell them, the one who gave us this knowledge told us not to allow it to stay with us. So if we're also giving it to you, we expect you to also go back to your village and train at least 10 people. At least 10. If you cannot get 10, get 1 or 2 or 3 and also train them. Take a picture and send it to us. If the person you are training is not getting it well, tell us. We will follow up and help you let the person understand it very well. Now, we are getting so many people at the time coming there. And then we observe that there's a point in time, sometimes we have a challenge because when they come, you'll be with them the whole day. They need something. Of course, we have some food in the farm. So there are times that we tell them, no, if the number is big, the whole community, you can organize yourself, oh, come there and share with you. So we have a large number of people that we have reached out to with one skill and other. Of course, not all. If you think that you heard of that we have an answer to your soil fertility because somebody came to give us that skill, then it means that you need soil fertility. It's not everybody who is doing fishing. Then we come there and we show the 3 or 4 components of the soil fertility skills he gave us. And then we tell you the rest is your own energy, your own time. Now you have the skill, put it into use, and then tomorrow you can get something into the table with you and your family and you can sell. That is how we are doing. In terms of numbers, I have a target of reaching 10,000 people with all this. I have videos. He told me, what you are doing so well. Don't keep it to yourself. Sometimes do something small and float it on a day. So that is what is giving us evidence. If you want, I can share a number of them with you. Just small stories that we've done and then we've shared. So that is my context. They might have a different experience because of what and where they operate. Thank you.
Yes, please.
Yeah, thank you. I think this really needs more understanding because, of course, the main aim of the farmer to farmer is to help farmers improve their agriculture production and the like. I'm very sure all over the world, a lot of things that affect the working practice and access of farmers to economy and like happen out of the farmers setting. There are a lot of people who make policies. There are a lot of people who make decisions about how to access credits and the like, inputs for fertilizer and how the systems operate, especially policy making process. Trust me, a lot of policymakers don't go and talk to farmers. They talk to evidences. What evidence do we have to improve the policy? And who should make this evidence? The PhD graduates and the like. Second thing is, especially with unemployment, and because we did 2 missions, the unemployed students are children of farmers. The malnourished mothers and children are in farming communities. So it's not just that, it's really like there is a system and chain of points that we discussed. So these PhD graduates, for example, they help in micronutrient deficiencies assessment. How do you assess vitamin A? It's like, it needs more facilities, more knowledge, and more skills than just producing what you produce. So it's especially if you really speak in Ethiopian nutrition environment, there are a lot of policy issues. There are a lot of system issues that should be improved because our farmers are a problem because of the policymakers, because of the politicians, because of the people who make decisions. So we cannot say, we help farmers only by working with farmers. We should know how to improve the policy, how to improve the government system, even how to improve the education system. And then that needs a very highly trained, well-informed manpower. Also, you need, let's say, laboratory facilities. Like one of the recommendations Dr. Alamo gave was have a very good laboratory facility. It answers of like how also we link with other resources. Now we have HPLC machine in place that can make mycotoxins and aflatoxins and food safety assessment. Because the farmers have no idea, like, what can you talk to the farmer about aflatoxin without having that data? And it needs regulation, it needs a system. It's not a farmer that regulates the market. So it's very important to think in a broader way and then address especially these policy and system issues. Of course, we should also work hand in hand with the farmers. In the meantime, we should also address evidence, knowledge generation, and policy, especially the policy making process. Thank you.
I would like to add also from the perspective of country director. We recently have established a partnership with the innovation labs here in US, the soybean and peanuts innovation labs. And what we are doing with those labs is train of trainers. So in that way, we are really tap many farmers, because each of the trainees, is responsible to train various numbers of farmers. I don't have the figures, but we have trained thousands of farmers through these schemes. So this is one way of reaching a lot of farmers, because scale up is a key to our program, particularly for those recommendations that are transferable. Because we have some recommendations that are not transferable. It's very specific, so you can't do anything. For example, business plan development, we have a lot of information that are very internal, so you can't scale up those. But trainings like training farmers on soil fertility improvement, the problem is always similar, and those we really put a lot of emphasis on trying to disseminate to all other farmers that were not involved directly in the training. Thank you.
Great. Great. Thank you very much. And it looks like we are at time right now to take a short break before we have our next panel. But I just wanted to take a moment to thank Antonio for moderating this panel. And thank you to all of our panelists here for sharing your experiences as hosts with the Farmer to Farmer organization. Let's give everyone a big round of applause. And thank you to all of you for your questions, both here in the room and online virtually. I know there were some questions that we weren't able to get to, but thank you very much for asking those to our panelists. And so we will get back started at 10:45. We'll have a 15-minute break right now in the room. And we have coffee, drinks, and some pastries left over to my right. And then close to the entrance, we have some swag, if anyone would like any, some cups and stickers. And then just as a reminder, the bathrooms are through this door under the exit sign. Take a right and then a left, and you'll find the bathrooms. Thank you.
I want to thank everyone here participating in our panel, the 6 volunteers here, which I'll let them introduce themselves. But thank you so much for participating, as well as every other volunteer that's come to DC this week and have shared their stories and their experiences with Farmer to Farmer. So once Jose comes in, we'll get started. But in the meantime, I'll have everyone introduce themselves. We'll start with Vivi, if you don't mind. You don't have to. You don't have to like, read. But if you can just say, introduce yourself, as well as how many volunteer assignments you've done. Maybe the last country you had an assignment in.
Great. I'm Amy Severin. I work at Land O'Lakes Inc. and I've had an opportunity to.
Oh, sorry. Can you
push the mic? The mic is on. I'm Evie Severin. I currently work at Land O'Lakes Inc. in the Dairy Foods Division, and I've had several opportunities to volunteer with Land O'Lakes Venture 37, which is affiliated with Land O'Lakes Inc. Most recently, from a farmer to farmer experience, had an opportunity to volunteer in Egypt, July, August of 22, working with the farmer to farmer team, and I also worked with another project there, and we were doing some training with the National Food Safety Authority, the inspectors, as well as visiting some facilities.
Oh, sorry about that. So I'm here now, and sorry for being a bit late, but thank you everyone in the panel. And continuing, we would like to hear from Lani Jordan. Please, can you present yourself and
Good morning, everybody. My name is Lonnie Jordan, and I want to start by just thanking all of you all of the implementer organizations that put so much work into this wonderful event. It has been absolutely inspiring and energizing to be among my people and to meet other volunteers, hosts, and country directors. So thank you so very much. I have been a volunteer for about 6 years, have done 10 assignments, all in the communication and marketing strategy sector, most in Moldova, but also in Malawi and Ghana. I also do a little bit of work for a similar organization outside the ag sector that focuses on the finance world. And I've been in Tunisia with that organization. So looking forward to hearing what everyone has to say.
Thank you, Lani. Now, Mr. Aline Lam, can you please present?
My name is Alan Lamb, and I live in Maine currently, but I've spent some time in Pennsylvania and in New England. My background is in banking, finance, but I started as a dairy farmer. So I had farming experience and then banking experience, and then went into the farm credit system, the US farm credit system, which is a cooperative system. So I also had some cooperative experience. I've been doing this work since I retired in 2013, and Diana Shipman got me my first assignment in Ghana, and Darla Embry got my second one in Nigeria. So that was my introduction to farmer to farmer. I think that's about all I will say now.
Thank you. Now can we have Elena please present herself?
Next.
Yep. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Elena Garcia. I am an emeritus professor from the University of Arkansas. My specialty is fruit production, technologies and science. And first, I want to thank Farmer to Farmer organization for having given me the opportunity to volunteer and get to know people in many different areas of the world, work with people, which, I truly enjoy teaching. And so this is an opportunity to go to other areas and teach them about fruit production, but as I'm there, I learn a lot from the culture, from the people there. I have started my first volunteer assignment was in Nepal in about 1999. And then my last assignment was last year at the Republic of Georgia. And, I have had a great time in each of the assignments. Each assignment is different people. So I have truly enjoyed myself. Thank you.
Thank you, Elena. And now, Dr. Aliar, please present yourself.
Good morning. It's a great pleasure for me to be in here. And thank you so much for this wonderful.
It's already on to begin with.
Okay, good morning. It's a great pleasure for me to be in here. And thank you so much for these great opportunities. I'm so excited to share the stage with these wonderful panelists and also my great friend, Mr. Jose. I have two affiliations. I'm Associate Professor of Public Health Microbiology in Tennessee State University. And I'm also the director of Public Health Microbiology Foundation. I'm the founding director of that program in Tennessee. I've done 14 programs in 8 countries, and I have done 3 programs with my own foundation in recent years. Once again, thank you for the opportunity, and I look forward to share my perspective with you in the next 1 hour or so.
Thank you so much. So now we have Mr. Alimu.
Yeah.
Please.
My name is Alemu Fite. I work for Corwell House in Michigan in a research institute in the infectious diseases department. For the longest time, I was working for Wayne State University in the same state. I am very happy to participate in this wonderful event because I really uphold this model of humanitarian interaction between donors, volunteers, experts, and all who are able to help around the world where the need is. And the model is so so amazing that, for instance, the CRS is there in the United States as well as in the hosting country, and then linking the two resources and the needs. And it is amazing. So I had that type of opportunity, which I did in 2019. And it was on a clear mission to teach the PhD students who were enrolled for human nutrition. At that stage, they were in call for a person who could cover as many subjects as possible. I did like 3-4 courses at the same time with a block, of 3 weeks. And it's like extensive teaching. Sometimes it's exhausting, but unfortunately, I had good students, and they were looking forward to get through the PhD courses. So they were behind in many ways. And fortunately, we achieved to finish as many courses as possible in a few weeks, and then they were able to write manuscripts at the very end of my assignment, and they lined up their names as authors. And to this day, it's a wonderful experience. I would have never been able to do without the Farmer to Farmer program. Definitely, this is the eye-opening for me, and it was the encouraging to do the same. Thank you.
Thank you so much to everyone. So this panel, we are going to divide it in 3 themes. One is how short assignments become long-term engagement. We know that you guys are open to go to our countries and have different types of assignments, but then as the need comes, then we need you to come back as a follow-up assignment or bring more information during other assignments, so that we grow together, right? So the first part it's going to be that. Then we're going to address how you started the engagement with assignments, and after you came back, how the host organization is doing after the recommendations that you have left. And the last part is going to be how the power of knowledge that you have transmitted to the host organization, how that exchange is helping farmers, country directors, volunteers, other volunteers, because the recommendations we also provided for other volunteers that are coming, that are going to work with the same host organization. And this is really important to share that information as well, right? So to begin with the short-term assignment and then the long-term engagement, we would like to maybe Evie begin with. How's the nature of that engagement? How did you engage in working with beginning with one assignment, and then if you have had a follow-up assignments, or how many times have you come back to work with the same host organization?
let's see, I'll use an example in Lebanon. I think I used that yesterday. So in 2019, I visited a French fry processor in rural Lebanon. And that was our initial visit as a team working with the farmer to farmer team in Lebanon. And so we did a gap analysis. Our focus was food safety quality. So the host organization had several goals, one of which was to have business with fast food restaurants like McDonald's, Burger King. And so we did our initial gap analysis, and the team, Charbel and his team in Lebanon, worked with the host organization to put together a roadmap. So how to achieve those goals. And again, they were very specific. And then from there, that was the initial visit in 2019. And then I had a friend and colleague who visited about a month later. And so we started just layering on the different technical assistance projects. We started, I think we had traceability, we had crisis management. And with that, because we had the continuity with the host organization, we were able to see some of the tools that they weren't able to access in Lebanon. So for example, that second volunteer was able to bring a calibrated thermometer, which is very easy to get here, source here in the US, but is more of a challenge if you're in the middle of nowhere, Lebanon. So, just building on that relationship. And I think the continuity, again, from the team in Beirut, just making sure that we have a clear roadmap, that there's clear accountability from the host, and the host, again, just making sure that we continue to meet their goals and their needs. So.
Thank you, Evie. And how many of you have maintained long-term contact with a host organization? Anyone can answer that because it's an open question.
I like to say some people go traveling and collect coffee cups. I go traveling and collect friends. I have been very fortunate in virtually all of my assignments to have maintained long-term relationships, and I work at that. You do the closing, you leave the recommendations, and I always want to know what the rest of the story is. And so I probably every quarter drop a message by some way on the device. And how are you doing? And but beyond that, I have some host organizations that specifically reach out to me as they get to the next step in their growth and development. And as I said, I do communication strategy. So one example was working with a cooperative in Moldova on a strategic communication plan, and we outlined the basics, made the recommendations, but communication is very dynamic. So as specific situations came up, the young woman who was the manager of their communication would contact me and say, we need to announce this, or this event has occurred within our cooperative. Okay. We need to communicate it to our members. Here is what I'm thinking. What do you think of that? Am I doing the right thing? And we would discuss, and sometimes I would review the draft of what she had done, and then make some suggestions to it. In addition, one of the things that I have found happening is a number of mentoring relationships, and that has been particularly true of the younger women that I have encountered on my assignments. For some of them, I'm the first professional woman that they have ever encountered, and sometimes it happens naturally, and sometimes they've formally asked me, will you be my mentor? And we set up regular conversations every month on WhatsApp or whatever tool is working the best to talk about the challenges that they are having in the workplace as women. And then the third thing that happens is, particularly in Moldova, I've done a number of assignments there. It is a relatively geographically small country, not difficult to get around. And when the word gets around that Lonnie is coming back for another assignment, suddenly my calendar fills with, can we meet with you about this? Can we check in on this? Can you have coffee? And we just want to tell you how we're doing. And that's really wonderful to have followed the progress of some of these hosts for now 6 years. On my most recent assignment to Moldova, I came back about 10 days ago. Last fall, I had worked with this very interesting app and web-based information technology marketing service for agriculture, and it's led by two very innovative young people, and they are doing some amazing things. But they're not doing a very good job of talking about themselves and what their organization is accomplishing so that they can grow their business. And so we made a plan last fall, and that included some rebranding so that they looked modern, fresh, would be carrying into the future. They received a small grant to hire a designer, and the designer was having a difficult time communicating with them because this young company had never been through such a process. So when I was in Moldova last month, I actually became the mediator of the discussion between the designer and the host organization. And at the end of our hour and a half of reviewing designs, they understood what they needed, the choice they needed to make to move forward. And the following week, I had a message from the designer. They have signed off on the new identity. Thank you for helping. So, and it's very rewarding and fun. And I look forward to continuing to follow people and help them as I can as we move forward.
Thank you, Lenny. And anyone else can share an experience that you have? Go ahead, Lena.
I had the benefit of going to Kyrgyzstan twice in the same year. When you're working with perennial fruits like apples, you do some practices in the spring, and that's when I went to teach them how to prune, how to thin fruit, and how to nutrition-wise, what fertilizers to give. But then you leave, and then that's it. But that apple will not ripen until the fall, so you don't know what the end product is going to look like, whether the advice you gave and what your practices resulted in. And so I was invited to go back in the fall, and it was amazing to see the fruit, and explaining to them. And I always make an effort to leave a tree that is unattended, so that we can come back and say, okay, look at the difference between this tree and this tree. Because growers are always very hesitant to prune and to thin fruit because they see that apple as income. And then I say, take it off. And because of physiological aspects of the tree. And so it was really interesting to see how they had the fruit then progress at the end of the season, and what the quality of the fruit. And then people ask me, why are you in horticulture? And I always say, because I like to eat what I grow. And so that's sort of, all of a sudden I'm exposed to all these apples and being able to consume some of them. So, yeah.
Thank you so much. And well, in every trip report, or after every assignment, then we have like a short-term, medium-term, and then long-term recommendations. And well, some of them are going to be part of the upcoming assignment. And have you experienced that, Dr. Aliar, and how you have followed up after the assignment, or has the host contacted you through emails or WhatsApp or anything? Do you have that experience?
Thank you, Mr. Jose. Before answering that question, hopefully this is not boring for you guys. I know you guys are listening to a lot of experiences from different volunteers. I'll keep it brief because I don't want to be boring. In a nutshell, as you all know, every successful program needs time, talent, and treasure. USAID is providing the treasure, but these amazing volunteers are giving their time and talent for these programs. So I would like to thank them as a volunteer myself for the excellent work that they are doing. In my opinion, we are making a difference for the emerging democracies, for improving gender equity and equity in general. With that being said, I have so many great experiences in this program. I have hard feeling I can't choose only one of them. But in a nutshell, I will explain the experience we had with the government of Haiti. The assignments that we had was adding iron, vitamin A, and iodine to the products that they are importing in the country. And we were recommending testing methods to make sure they are adding sufficient amounts. The program was supposed to be only 2 weeks. It ended up to be almost a 1-year program. We were going back and forth. That was the longest program I've done with the F2F. And then we did a follow-up program. The second assignment, I went to beautiful Port-au-Prince, and I was honored that the Minister of Health of the country came to the workshop. She was actually a very talented lady, and she asked amazing questions. So as Jose mentioned, these programs on paper, they are 2 weeks, but sometimes we work with the host for extended period of time. Great programs in Jamaica, I've done Colombia, my friend in Lebanon, Mr. Jose. So many great programs. Sorry that I can't talk about all of them, but thank you again for the opportunity. And thank you again to all the volunteers for the important work that they are doing.
Thank you, Dr. Alia. And as I was explaining, right, we have this type of recommendations, and they become kind of like a long-term engagement. So, Aline, maybe have you faced any difficulties like following up with these recommendations or with the host? Do you have that experience?
I think my situation is probably a little bit different in terms of following up, because what happens is I will complete an assignment, and then that creates another assignment behind that, but very often someone else follows. So then rather than have me interfere with another volunteer, I just let them run with it. So my follow-up experience has not been very extensive, actually.
Okay. How about you, Dr. Alimu?
Yeah.
Have you experienced any difficulties following up?
Yeah. Basically, the shortest term of engagement. The shortest term of engagement was biostatistics, nutrition in different on different subjects, the nutrition, community nutrition, different topics in nutrition, teaching about nutrients, teaching about energy. That model is engaging by itself. It is interesting. The short-term experience was very good. It went very well because malnutrition is a human problem. Malnutrition is a human problem. In terms of energy, malnutrition is the third world problem. In terms of nutrients, malnutrition is in this country where energy is excess. So the energy excess malnutrition, the nutrient excess malnutrition. We are teaching nutrition in terms of mediating human health. And the nutrition science is a health science, and the nutrition science is also agricultural science. So it is mediating all these type of concepts. So our short-time engagement was very interesting. But to continue, we have observed a lot of difficulties, not only shortage of professors, other resources too. Even in the class where I was teaching, there was not even enough projectors and computers and all this. So we were sitting somewhere. It would have been okay to teach under the tree, but the science would have required a little bit of the resources. It's not like in here. I don't mean that there is no materials there, but under circumstances I was engaged in the teaching, it was really shortage. Electricity went off several times and all this. And I also looked at the nutrition laboratory for the academy, but you know, all the safety issues, all the resources, the crowding of students, all this type of stuff required follow-up and resources, materials, which you could not be able to satisfy in a sort of, you know, the farmers to farmers project. It has to be structural. It has to be the fundamental. And the other thing which I recommended at that time was to follow up on the monthly basis by, you know, making journal clubs, because they are, these guys are higher education students. They have to be critical. They have to be, you know, creative. They have to be, you know, developing leadership. So the engagement on a monthly basis, all these type of recommendations was there. Academic follow-ups, journal clubs, and updating, advancing the science and thinking more, developing projects for research, all this type of stuff are required. You know, Fakadu is the one who was running all over the place, and he was given the responsibility to do all this. And unfortunately, he left. He left Ethiopia, and now he's doing his PhD in Oklahoma here. So some interruptions there. Coronavirus changed life altogether. So we couldn't be able to pursue most of the recommendations we were trying to, you know, accomplish the subsequent in subsequent years. So yeah, nowadays maybe the model has to change into virtual, into how we can approach some of the problems, the higher education problems. And the country Ethiopia is undergoing a little bit of problems also. So yes, of course, there is a lot of the difficulties in terms of higher education. Yeah.
Evie, can you do you want to? Okay, and talking about recommendations and yeah. But so the coming question is talking about the recommendations. How can we, and when I say we, it's the farm to farmer staff, like field officers, country directors, recruiters, everyone that take place in doing the farmer to farmer program. How can we help you doing this long-term engagement with the host organizations? How can we do progress in that?
I think, you know, it starts with the host selection, you know, with the in-country teams. I think that's really critical to get the right host organizations, because this isn't a one-time thing and done. You know, the intent is really to build and to layer technical assistance, so you're building on that. Not all hosts are committed to that long-term, you know, program for want of a better word. So I think making sure that that host selection is very robust, making sure that the hosts know what they're accountable for. You know, there's a continuum of hosts. You know, I've been fortunate to work with some very great, you know, hosts that are very engaged. And I think it's really key that their upper management is engaged, as well, you know, as the quality professional that they may or may not have. So engagement by the host, accountability by the host, making sure that there's clear understanding of roles. I think sometimes host organizations, especially very small organizations, they don't know what to do, with a technical, consultant. So I think helping the host understand what this resource, what the possibilities are, that it's, we're here to help. We're not doing an audit, but we're here to help, share best practices, share our learnings, and it's a mutual learning. I think, that we're here to learn, when we're in country, to learn as much, so it's very mutual, very collaborative. And so I think strengthening the host selection, strengthening the host accountability and engagement.
Thank you, Evie. Anyone has more recommendations? Because
I'll go next. Again, I'll keep it in a nutshell, as brief as I can. Obviously, I don't want to state the obvious. I want to make a recommendation for country directors that is helpful. I think these country directors, first of all, in my opinion, they are national treasures in their home country. Some of them, they get 6 to 8 volunteers per month. They're doing important work for their country. And they have an amazing network with volunteers and also local individuals. So my recommendation for them, instead of cherry picking the hosts, maybe they can do some type of needs assessment, formal needs assessment. Maybe they can contact their network to identify the needs for capacity building in their country, to have some type of survey that they can justify the selection of the hosts.
thank you, Dr. Alier. And we're moving to theme 2, which is how it started and how it's going. And we would love to hear from, well, everyone has a lot of experience and have done many assignments before. So looking back to your first farmer-to-farmer assignment, what 3 things, talking about like feelings or emotions or fond memories or bad experiences, what comes to mind when you did your first assignment?
Well, I guess I'd like to just shift a little bit. The Farmer to Farmer program is actually very personal to me because the name of the program is the John Oganowski, Doug Bereiter Farmer to Farmer program. And we know who Doug Bereiter was. He was the congressman who sponsored the legislation. And we know John Oganowski was a pilot of Flight 11. They hit the World Trade Center. But what else was John? Well, it turns out John had a farm in Dracut, Massachusetts. And it was because he was flying all the time, he was basically renting out the land. But it turns out that there were a group of Cambodians that were coming into the Boston area, and they had no resources whatsoever. They were refugees, basically. And so he let them use his farm to grow crops. And they used the crops for their own food. And I said it's personal, it is. And they used it for revenue. I had a business relationship with John, and he was on my advisory board. And so I considered him a friend. And so that's why I got involved in Farmer to Farmer to begin with. When I heard that his name was attached to the program, I had to get involved. So I told you about my first 2 assignments, but I've done 18 assignments. I do about 2 a year. And lately it's mostly been with IESC because my area of expertise is access to finance. And what I try to do is educate farmers on how to prepare themselves to get credit. And then I work with Musa and other banks to teach them how to finance agriculture. But my first assignment really was formative. I was in northern Ghana, and it was far north, and it was in Wa, which is very remote, and it's a long way from anything. And so I was supposed to teach a group of farmers about financial management principles. Well, it's not relevant to them. but I did what I could. Most of them, they didn't have numeracy. They were probably not literate. Every one of them had a cell phone, so they knew what a number was. So what we tried to do is teach them how to use the numbers, even if they had to go like this, to keep track of the crops that they were raising, which was maize. And so the training that I did with them was under a shade tree, you know, outside. There's a group of them. Someone was talking about on the ground with the Indians. It was very similar to that. And I had no idea how I was going to do formal training to a group of farmers like that, but I did get through it. I was working with TechnoServe at the time, and they were very resourceful, very helpful. So I would say I was naive. I was scared, frankly, but I did get through it. So, and I think that's probably a common experience. You know, at times you have panic. The assignment turns out to be something a little bit different. I told you also at one of our earlier meetings that even though my assignment had to do with teaching farmers some basic business skills, I went out there and I saw that they were raising maize and they were putting a dibble in and they were dropping the seed in, but then they were broadcasting the fertilizer. And that's really not the best way to fertilize maize. And so I just suggested, if you're going to put a dibble in for the seed, put another dibble in for the fertilizer, because that places the fertilizer where it needs to be. And by doing that, the host told me that they tripled their maize production in 1 year. So that was very gratifying to get that kind of a result.
Thank you so much. Do you want to share some of your insights, Dr. Elena, please?
My first assignment was to Nepal in 1999, and then my last assignment was last year in Georgia. And personally, I feel I have grown, I have developed my approach to these assignments. When I first went to Nepal, it was circumstances beyond anybody's control. The insurgents were taking over, and we had to get out of the village in a very quick time. So that assignment did not materialize very well. By the time I came to Georgia, I was very prepared to do my homework. Okay, and so I started communicating with the host organization, Magda and Lana, and they probably thought I was just so, because I was communicating and what do I do and what do they need and how are we going to be doing this. I realized I sent some PowerPoint presentations for them to look at them, and they probably went like, oh my God, you have 100 slides. You're not going to be able to do this. And I'm going like, that's okay. I'd rather cut than be unprepared. But so it is, in a sense, my growth is to focusing on what that assignment requires of me. Okay, and so that I felt my last assignment was probably the most effective, and I accomplished the most in a way. And so I think, and I hope that because of this, I have been able to deliver a better program to the recipients in that assignment.
Dr. Lemon, do you want to share some? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I would wholeheartedly agree. My first assignment was in 2016, and I was very green. So I've learned to go with the flow. I have a friend in Egypt, when she was here at graduate school in the US, she thought it was go with the flu. She never could understand, but really go with the flow. So when you have your scope of work, but I would agree, the more prepared you are, the better you can hit, when you're in country. I've also learned to make sure, I think initially the training that we were doing, it was very talking heads, kind of death by PowerPoint. I think you've all experienced that. Since then, making sure that we have engagement. So my most recent assignment, it was with another program in Georgia. Making sure that the training session isn't a talking PowerPoint slide presentation, but there's really engagement. We have small group breakouts, that type of thing. I also bring props. So if you don't know what good looks like, if you don't know what, I don't know, this is probably more than you would ever want to know about food safety, but if you don't know what gloves, proper gloves, nitrile gloves, or if you don't know what a squeegee looks like, or the different tools that we use that are effective in ready to eat dairy food application, I bring those with. So I have a suitcase of props that I bring with so that they can see, they can touch it, they can feel it. If you've never worn a beard net, bringing beard nets and hair nets and different color, things so that they understand the possibilities. And then the other thing I've had an opportunity is making the connections. So again, we here in the US are very fortunate, we can pick up the phone or go online to order. That may not be the case, in Egypt or Georgia or Bangladesh or wherever. So using the network to make sure that their distributors, if we're doing a temperature study, do they have access to a temperature recorder in country? So, and if not, being prepared to bring that information. So I think, the 7 years that I've been doing, I'm more prepared and I ask a lot more questions, as poor Charbel can relate to, before I, get on the plane. So.
And talking about you, Dr. Lemo, in the same question, and I heard that you're Ethiopian.
Yes.
How was it that when you did your first assignment going back to your country, how did that happen? And how you felt going back, and what's your experience on that day?
Yeah, very interesting, because this is my very important assignment. And life has prepared me for the subject anyways, because I have been trained in chemistry, I've been trained in human nutrition, I've been trained in public health, I have been trained in the microbiology. I have been trained in many of these subjects. I have a degree in all of this. So, so life prepared me. I didn't have to think the second time to go and take the first assignment and through the farmers and farmers. And when I'm going back home, it wasn't emotional at the first, but the type of reception, the type of organization, how FICADU has organized things, it's like dragging me what I haven't ever thought about. Like, he prepared, he organized. When first time I was thinking like, I would be staying in a student dormitory or something under the tree, or that's what the type of my expectation. But I was lodged in a hotel. Okay, that's the beginning. How reception was so interesting. So I was happy anyways, beyond my expectation. The students were expecting also a lot. And somebody coming from the United States, somebody qualified in many different subjects, and the old person, wise and gray hair, this person could contribute something. That's their expectation. I believe that they have a lot of respect for me. The way FICADU has been organizing the higher education, the curriculum, and there were 3 cohorts of students at the same time, which were attending these lectures and data analysis practice and writing manuscripts on all sorts of stuff. So we engaged very well with exhaustion, with long hours a day. What I have learned from there is emotional attachment. I became a friend of FICADU and became friends now. It's a long-lasting relationship that has been developed. if we were able, we could continue even greater development projects, which we can work with governments, Ethiopian government, communities, students, and all these academic institutions. But yeah, provided the resources are there, yeah, it is a good experience for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Alemu. And how did you first hear about the Farmer to Farmer program? If everyone can answer that. And then on the same question, what was your initial perception of the Farmer to Farmer program?
I first heard about the Farmer to Farmer program when it was brand new in 1985, and I was young, much younger employee. I started my career at Land O'Lakes, and coincidentally, that one of the first volunteers that Land O'Lakes sent out on international development was married to the woman in my department who baked my wedding cake and has been a friend all of those years. And I was so amazed to watch their journey of doing these volunteer assignments. And ultimately, he left Land O'Lakes and went to work for CNFA and was in Kazakhstan and was also the original country director in Moldova. And all of the time I'm thinking, I really want to do this. I really want to do this. Of course, I had a young, growing family and a very big career. And then at the same time, I had a friend of that same duration who many of your organizations know as a volunteer, Pam Karg. And I watched Pam's journey through Farmer to Farmer and had it as a goal. And there came a time in the early 2010s where I thought that I had enough vacation I could sign up, and I actually had my CV in, and some changes happened at CHS that turned my job into an 80-hour-a-week job, 365 days a year. So that went on the table. When I left in 2016 to start my own communication business, it's not an exaggeration to say the number one goal on my list was to do a farmer to farmer assignment. And within the first month after I was on my own, I went and filled out all of the applications. And then about May, the call came, would you like to go to Malawi? And like, wow, that's kind of a big assignment, a big thing for the first time out, you're going to Malawi. And it was the most, and I'm a very well-traveled person, but it was a life, as some of you have said, it was a life-changing experience. And I learned so much and did lots of preparation for what was an assignment to help a small local village grain cooperative with a marketing plan. How could they add value and get more by marketing to other places? But it turned into something else, because after the second day out in the village visiting with this amazing cooperative of 30 farmers, half of whom were very powerful women with a lot of leadership skills, what I really understood was that they already were selling everything the cooperative raised to the World Food Program. And I said, well, I said, is that committed? Yes. And I said, so what is it you think you're going to market to new markets, or where is what you're raising that is going to have value added to it? And they're like, oh, we don't have anything else. I said, what we really need to talk about here is how to make your cooperative bigger. And so we spent about half of the time building a plan for growing their cooperative membership, and where could they find new members and bring them in so that they would have additional volumes. And once we had that in place, we spent the next week talking about, okay, we have a bigger cooperative, we have more to market, what are our market strategies? But the most fun we had during our time together was they didn't understand how you would actually go and have a conversation with someone about joining the cooperative. What are the benefits of joining the cooperative? or to go and have a conversation with a new customer about why they should buy what you're raising or why they should participate with you in adding value as oil or ground nut butter or something else. They didn't know how to do that. So I took a chance and we did role play sessions, which was a very foreign concept to them. And they were really nervous about it. And we had so much fun pretending they were one of them was the visitor to pitch the idea of joining the cooperative, and the other was the very skeptical farmer who was not sure he wanted to join the cooperative. And how do we convince? And it was the most rewarding experience for my first time out. And I started my own personal tradition, which is I cry at the end of every assignment.
Yeah, it's pretty emotional, and also for us, the country staff, it's pretty emotional because.
And the co-op's doing great, by the way.
That's really great to hear. So, and since you guys are seasoned volunteers, what would be your advice for new volunteers that want to participate in the Farmer to Farmer program? Anyone?
One is be prepared. Do your homework. And secondly, she mentioned, let things flow. Okay, things are, I'm a very time person. And so when I went to Nepal, it was like time as I knew it did not exist. Okay, and so that adjustment for me was it was a an emotional, physical adjustment. But now I know that things, just let them flow, let them go, and things have a tendency to work, especially if you are with a good host organization. They will take care of things. You just you go and you are prepared, and that makes things work best. Also, again, ask in advance, what are the resources those growers have? I usually take tools, pruning tools, things like that, so that I'm able to demonstrate how to use those tools. And I always leave some behind as gifts, because some of those tools are very difficult for them to get. But then I bring some. I have had issues, especially going to Istanbul airport. They go, what is this? Sauce, big loppers and things like that. But it's just something that I now learned to expect, as I say, especially in Istanbul airport. But that would be my advice. Yeah, and enjoy yourself.
Thank you so much for sharing all these insights and all these recommendations, because this is how we get to hear from seasoned volunteers, and we learn, and we put this in as the recommendations in the trip report. This is the way we are going to improve ourselves with the Farmer to Farmer program. So thank you so much for sharing all these experiences, all the recommendations, and now we are going to start the questions and answers part of the panel. So if you have some questions, please just raise your hand, and then they're going to give you the mic, and the ones online. Yeah.
Great. Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. The fascinating discussions. I just love all the stories from the volunteers and also from the hosts that we've had. Some really wild things going on out there. I have one comment and one question. The comment is just in terms of like what makes for a successful volunteer assignment. And I've heard from both Mark Kane and Dr. Isaac Zama about their experiences working, and it sounds like an additional thing is to be seek those opportunities and seize them. You'll see things on the ground that you didn't anticipate. Mark was telling about connecting the teaching school program with a local farming company that was providing opportunities to train people on the ground, and there was a connection there to be made that was not in the scope of work. And I mean, Dr. Zama will give you all sorts of stories about what he sees, just basically arriving, the assignment was to develop a feed, right? Well, you can develop the feed from, the research that you do, but it's really looking at what's available there. So really taking stock before jumping into the actual work. And I think, both of those, it's really being very flexible and adaptive, but observant and understanding the context. My question is, and I'm sorry if I've sort of miscommunicated both of your comments that you've made before, but my question is kind of like the longer term relationship with hosts, and maybe it's more to Peggy in terms of how this works, because I think we aspire to develop host technical assistance plans, living documents that trace out more multiple stages of technical assistance that may involve different volunteers who provide different types of technical assistance. It's not always just about agronomy or food processing, but there might be marketing or bookkeeping or communications. Those are different skills, but we're working with the same host over a series of assignments, which means that the number of volunteers is not equivalent to the number of hosts. It would actually be a lower number of hosts in the end. And we see that, historically, there have been like 19,000 volunteers since the inception, 12,000 hosts, which means that we're serving hosts multiple times. But is there a limit to that? Do we have to strive to reach as many hosts as possible? Or is that, how does that translate?
Jose, I can answer that one. What a great question. Obviously, as we all know, these programs are helping so many countries around the world. But in my opinion, the country that is benefiting the most is this country. According to a publication in New England Journal of Medicine, $9 million investment in infrastructure of Dominican Republic of Haiti resulted in $20 million gain for American people. So answering your question, I don't think there should be a limit. We should help as many companies as we can, especially if they are located in an emerging democracy, and especially if we are improving gender equity in that country.
Okay. I want to ask the panelists, the panel members, in your experience, did you ever come across a host who was so difficult to deal with? And if so, how did you, get along with him and eventually get your assignment done? That's one. Then number two, we also have sometimes a host. I was a bit lucky. I could carry out some of the recommendations very easily, and I knew how to maneuver. If you come across a host that one way or the other hasn't got the capacity to implement some of the recommendations that you are giving, but of course, it is a recommendation, or in the end that justifies that, yes, you've done a good job. What do you do to get the host, get that going? Thank you.
I haven't come across such a difficult problem in my assignment, but one thing I can suggest or advise in times of difficulty has to do with the preparation, right? The preparation is such that, it's an attitude of giving. This is a model of humanitarian giving out. As such, a volunteer is someone who is committing his life, committing his knowledge and his time. So somebody has to expect little from the host organization, from a host country. Whenever a volunteer starts off in the very beginning. That was the type of attitude I developed when I did that. So it wouldn't be too difficult, I believe. Especially so many two different countries are involved in caring for and volunteer now. But more than that could be done in volunteering and becoming a humanitarian. So yeah, it would be it's a matter of attitude. That's what I believe.
I'm
sorry. I had one where I was working with a small financial institution. And when you work with a financial institution, you want to have access to their policies and their procedures and their guidelines and their senior people. And I was not given any of that going into it because you want to understand what's going on with the institution. And so what I ended up having to do was develop a training program, which I gave to the staff, the field staff, and that part of it went very well. But what I should have been aware of is that's a huge red flag. If somebody does not want to give you the information, there's something going on. And it turns out there was grand larceny was going on the part of the managing director. That organization no longer exists in Tanzania.
I had an interesting personal experience. I believe, in Kyrgyzstan, and in the host village, the house I was staying, the host son had stolen a wife and had brought her to the house. Okay, so here I am from the United States, and we are, that is human trafficking, all that, and it's like I'm sitting there. And so, how do you react? How do I react? So I started, first of all, thinking I'm here as a volunteer to deliver technical information. I am not here to change the culture, and I'm not going to change the culture overnight. I'm not going to just totally rebel. So I stayed, it was something I really had a very difficult time accepting. But at the same time, I began to question them. Why is this done? Why doesn't she just run away? And what are the reasons for her to staying in this house? And it was just an interesting experience for me as a person to be in that household. Okay, but like I say, I just went like, okay, I'm not here to change the culture. I don't accept it, but that's all I can do.
I think we'll.
Awkward to figure out how to deal with these situations. So this was in Senegal, on my first trip to Senegal, and I had gone out to visit a female rice farmer, and she had wanted to show me her rice field. We had a wonderful experience there, but she wanted her husband to call me in the field and talk to me about how desperate they were really financially in Senegal in general, that they had a lot of energy, but they just didn't have the capital means. Well, but the same thing was happening with the school where I was teaching. Was a horticultural school, and it had very few amenities. We barely had electricity. It was kind of a borrowed structure, and the school was actually in the process of moving to a completely bare piece of land that was adjacent. There were no buildings there, no bathrooms, and so they were doing all that after I left. They were going to have to move. And so I got requests for money from both the director of the school, which I really enjoyed him. We had a great personal relationship. I felt like what he was teaching was right on. And so I was super supportive. But they needed money for the building. At that time, they needed money for the roof. The woman rice farmer I had gone to visit, of course, was in dire straits also. And, she's building a house, trying to build a house. And so because I want to give out my personal contact information to be of assistance afterwards, after the assignment. I had given them my emails and my Facebook contacts and stuff. And so I got some requests for assistance, for financial assistance. And so I responded to a couple of them. You know, we helped to put a roof on the school, but that led to more requests and more requests. And they became uncomfortable. In fact, it became to where I didn't want to communicate anymore with the participant because I didn't know how to refuse the request, and I have no way of monitoring where the money's going. So it's a very awkward situation to be in when you want to be helpful, and you do have some resources, but they're not infinite. You want to be helpful, but I bet this comes up way more often with other volunteers as well. I don't know how to negotiate that very well.
Thank you again for those presentations. So I'm learning a lot from those experiences, those these stories. I'm coming back again to my earlier questions regarding the main goal of the organization, improving the livelihood of farmers. What I would like to hear from you, at least to share some ideas, is I believe, well, I found that truly difficult to convince them, the farmers, local farmers, that doing agriculture is a business. Because most of them, they just want to raise the chickens in the backyard and hoping by doing that, they might become rich, or they might truly improve their livelihood, which is usually not the case. I hope you'll be sharing this observation with me. Then I would like to know how you as a volunteer are helping them or convincing them to improve their activities. I would like to know from you in order for me to know also how I will be interacting with them. Thank you.
Yeah, that's certainly a tough challenge. Again, it's very individual. From a food safety perspective, you know, we use the GFSI Global Markets Program. And ultimately, you know, as they make improvements, they can get GFSI certification, which is huge. That opens, you know, up to trade, which is really huge. It's a huge carrot. You know, from a trade perspective, it opens doors, you know, to retailers all over the world. But that's a huge challenge because, you know, at the end of the day, what's in it for them to make changes? You know, from a science perspective, we can just present the evidence, the science, but it's ultimately up to the host organization. What are their goals as an organization? We need to help them see the possibilities. If they're a small manufacturer, to see what the possibilities are. But ultimately, you know, it's a host organization. It's not an easy answer. Yeah, that's a hard one. Definitely.
And Jose, if I may jump in for a second, I certainly agree with the great comments from the colleague, but I think it's important to differentiate between certifications from the industry and the laws of the land. What she is mentioning, GFSI, is helpful. It is a certification for the food industry. But when we are talking about exportation, the first step is law of the land. If you are selling to European Union, you have to follow the requirement of European Food Safety Authority. If you are selling to the United States, you have to follow the laws and regulation, Food Safety Modernization Act or USDA policy. So the first step is to meeting the laws of the land. And then the second step, maybe they can do other certifications.
Yeah, that's a great clarification, definitely. And I think the challenge is oftentimes when I'm in country, I don't know the law of the land, you know, so then the burden of responsibility, you know, I challenge the host organization, you know, in the case of like in Egypt, you know, if there's a standard of identity, So making sure that the host organization understands the regulations in their country first. Yeah, that's
Of course, it's close to my heart because I teach a graduate course in food policies and regulation. When it goes to international commerce, there is a branch of United Nations, Codex Alimentarius. Those are the policies that harmonizing the regulatory affairs in different regions. So if you're going to Egypt, a standard of identity for olive oil, we can take a look at United Nations Codex Alimentarius, as you know.
Okay, thank you so much for your participation.
Can I add to that?
Oh.
I think also the host organization, for example, when I went to Georgia, they stated no pesticide information. And I truly agree with that because each country has its own rules for pesticides. Each country has its special pesticides and so that was a very good excuse for me not to talk about pesticides because they would ask me and I would say, well, it's here. I cannot talk to you about pesticides. I can talk to you about pest management, but not specific pesticides, which sometimes that's what the growers want, but it's beyond, it's the law of the land. What is allowed in that country that I need to go by?
Okay, thank you so much for your participation in this panel. We look forward for you to continue volunteering in the Farmer to Farmer program and spread the word with new volunteers as well. And then, well, I have you in my list and hopefully for the next cycle, we're going to have you back in our country. So thank you so much and thank you for everyone participating.
Thank you, everyone on the panel, Jose for moderating. We have a very short video that CRS shared for us to watch, a highlight of a post impact. Then we'll close out for today, have Peggy share some final words and go up to the 9th floor for the reception for those of us in person. So
That's great.
Thanks, Stephanie. And Patrick from CRS wanted me to tell you all this is the world premiere of the CRS video. So this is a host organization in Uganda called Kaibehura Farms Limited. Let's see if we can get this audio working.
Kaibehura Farmers Limited is a fast-growing, family-run farm in southwestern Uganda. Created in 1975 on 20 hectares of land, the property now includes dairy, poultry, and fish production. As operations expanded, the farm needed support in both managing production and keeping track of the business. To address this need, since 2019, Kaibehura has hosted 6 volunteer assignments through the U.S. Agency for International Development's Farmer to Farmer program. Each assignment has allowed the farm to grow in new ways, from healthier livestock to value-added products to expanded business accounting. Kaibehura Farmers Hatchery produces catfish and tilapia, which are important for the local diet. But the farm needed to find a way to produce the fish more economically.
The Farmer to Farmer program, we were privileged to have a volunteer from the US. He taught us a number of things. One was about sex reversal, where you reverse the sex of fish so that you get male fish, they grow faster. Our sales are likely to grow higher because people get what they want from us.
Kaibehura Farm's fish breeding operations have experienced many successes. Kaibehura Farms hosted several assignments focused on improving livestock nutrition. The first assignment focused on improving the quality of poultry feed and led to an increase in both egg production and the quality of the eggs. Another assignment concentrated on dairy nutrition and included instruction for making feed, silage, salt licks, and how best to fertilize and maximize yields of grazing lands. A third assignment revolved around value-added products.
We got a volunteer called Alan. He came to teach us about to help us improve our yogurt production, or to make the whole process efficient. Because of the education, of the training we got, I think the future is bright. It means we shall sell more and we can compete at the national level.
Two final farmer-to-farmer assignments focused on the business side of Kabehura farms.
We got a volunteer on our accounting system. There were some things in the system which we didn't know. So he taught us how to use them. He trained the two of our staff for about 2 weeks. So every system or every process is documented now.
Farmer-to-farmer volunteers helped Kabehura farms grow larger, stronger, and more profitable. And Kabehura's success becomes the community's success. Their boundless vision invites other businesses to learn, to look forward, and to embrace opportunities.
Okay, great. Thank you very much for sharing that video, CRS, and we'll hand it over to Peggy Carlson from USAID to close us out.
I don't know if this works. I figured I'd come up here so you don't have to strain your neck turning to see me in the back. But yeah, I just wanted to thank you all for your participation in this meeting. One of my favorite things about Farmer to Farmer is getting to meet volunteers and hosts. And so there was a long time while the pandemic was going, I never got that opportunity and I didn't get a chance to really hear firsthand from everybody. So these 2 days have been fantastic. To hear all the host experiences directly and the volunteer experiences has been a really great, for me personally, has been really great. And it seems like the discussion that's happened has been good for all of you as well, because this cross-organization and cross-country sharing is really, I mean, it makes the Farmer to Farmer program so much stronger. We have a very strong community of practice within the global Farmer to Farmer program, which is not that common at USAID, you know, or other donor projects. Sometimes they're a little bit spread out, but I think this community together, we all come together to make the global program stronger. So I'm very pleased to have interacted with you all. And also, I know a lot of the staff of the implementing partners, but it's always pleasant to see you again. And I want to give a special thanks to all of those that organized these 2 days. I know Partners of the Americas took the lead on a number of the logistics, but other people helped as well. So I think it was a very collaborative effort, but very thanks to Partners of the Americas and then the other implementing partners who helped out. I think it was a big success. I was excited yesterday. I didn't participate in your marathon day of meetings, but I got to hear little tidbits about how that went. It seems like that was a pretty exciting day. And I know all of that takes a lot of logistics. And so thanks to those who helped organize this. But yeah, so I'm excited to go and socialize a little bit more and see all of you all and hopefully interact a bit more and talk about Farmer to Farmer some more. So I'm not sure if there's any other final announcements or comments, but on the behalf of USAID, I just wanted to thank you all for your active participation in this event. So give yourselves a round of applause.